First, let's start with this case. I have been living in this house for 2 years, and during this time, I've noticed a significant number of stray cats in the area, most of which are feral. Whenever I spot kittens, I take them to a rescue organization I work with, and this has never been an issue. Among the stray cats, there's been a tomcat hanging around for quite a while. I recognize him and feed him along with the others. He's always been more social than the other strays, but it's clear he's been neglected. The first things I noticed were the severe matting in his fur and how underweight he was for his size. He also had fleas, along with other signs of poor care, making him hardly distinguishable from the other ferals, aside from being slightly friendlier. I would see this cat outside every day, at all hours. Eventually, he became comfortable enough for me to pick him up, and he started following me around often. I debated taking him in, but ultimately decided I couldn't. Fortunately, the rescue organization I work with informed me they had space for him. This felt like the best solution. So about 2 weeks ago, I took him to the rescue. The day after I brought him in, the rescue sent me the veterinary report. The cat was underweight, dehydrated, and had feline immunodeficiency virus, fleas, and heartworms. His teeth were in such poor condition that several needed to be pulled. Additionally, his fur was so matted that he had to be fully shaved under sedation to be cleaned. The prognosis wasn't great. The goal was to manage his symptoms and keep him comfortable. Thankfully, he was placed with a foster caregiver who could ensure he was cared for properly. Yesterday, however, my neighbors came over and asked if I'd seen the cat near my house. They claimed he was theirs and wanted to know where he was. I explained that I had taken him to a rescue, and since there was no microchip or identification, I assumed he was a stray. I also mentioned that he appeared to be in extremely poor health and didn't seem cared for, though I tried to phrase this as gently as possible. The conversation quickly turned heated. They insisted the cat had been theirs forever, but admitted he was difficult to get inside. This surprised me because I had no trouble picking him up or interacting with him. They eventually threatened to call the authorities. I told them they were welcome to, but no police showed up, and honestly, I didn't expect them to. Still, I felt conflicted. From my perspective, the cat was not being cared for appropriately, and it's heartbreaking to see an animal in such a state. Yet they claim he's their pet. What does everyone else think? Was I in the wrong here? Let's start judging. You're not in the wrong. That cat was clearly being neglected, and you did the right thing by bringing it to the shelter. Those people clearly aren't responsible enough to own a pet, and I hope that the cat is okay, wherever it is. You're not in the wrong. This is unfortunately not out of the ordinary. This cat has a much better chance at a better quality of life now that you've intervened. Saying they were not taking appropriate care of him is an understatement. This is a case of severe neglect. You did the right thing. Absolutely. You're not in the wrong. It'd have been different if you picked up a completely healthy and well-taken care of cat and took it to a rescue when it was clear he had a home. But you didn't. You took a very obviously neglected and sick feline to get the help he needed, and hopefully a nice future home where they actually take care of him. Next up, let's start judging. I am a female high school junior and participate in several activities at my school, including the cheer team, student council, and a mentoring program that supports students with disabilities. I also have a part-time job at a cafe. On top of that, I'm a big fan of a well-known singer-songwriter and have been since 2016. My cheer coach recently welcomed a girl with Down syndrome onto our sideline cheer program, which I think is wonderful. As a member of these programs, I'm expected to participate in Spirit Weeks by dressing up according to the themes. Last Thursday was Ugly Sweater Day as part of Spirit Week. I don't own an ugly sweater, but I do have a bright purple cardigan from the Speak Now collection, which is a little flashy but not ugly. I worked hard during the summer of 2023 and saved up to purchase it when it was released, so it's meaningful to me as my first big purchase. I decided to wear it that day, and pictures of me in the cardigan were posted on both the cheer team and student council Instagram pages. The girl with Down syndrome, who is also a fan of the singer, saw my posts, and her mother contacted me through direct messages. Her mom asked if I would be willing to give the cardigan to her daughter, believing I thought it was ugly based on the theme. I respectfully declined, explaining that I didn't think the cardigan was ugly, just bold. I also shared how much the cardigan meant to me, considering the hard work it took to purchase it. Her mom replied, suggesting I could simply buy another one, and accused me of being discriminatory. I tried to explain that the cardigan was no longer available for purchase and that second-hand options were out of my budget, but she insisted. The next day, my cheer coach texted me, calling me rude and telling me I needed to give the cardigan to the girl and apologize. I sent her screenshots of the conversation and explained the sentimental value of the cardigan. However, she insisted it was my responsibility as a cheerleader and a student leader to set an example and give up the cardigan. When I told my parents what happened, they supported me, questioning why the girl's mother couldn't purchase the cardigan herself rather than asking me to give up mine. I agreed but refrained from saying anything that could come across as rude. On Saturday, when I logged in to check a math grade, I discovered I had been removed from the mentoring program entirely. My dad tried calling the school, but no one responded. With Monday being a day off, we've received no replies from the school or my cheer coach. What should I do? Am I in the wrong here? You're not in the wrong. However, you don't do anything. You let your parents handle this. This is a bunch of adults bullying a child to try and steal a literal piece of clothing off her back, that child being you. And you need your parents to step in and advocate for you. Your parents need to go to the school in person and speak with the headmaster/principal. Take a deep breath. This too shall pass. Remember that you are not required to give up your possessions to another simply because they want it, and that you are being targeted by a bunch of adults, who should know better, over a goddamn Taylor Swift cardigan. Take a moment to revel in how pathetic that is on the part of the adults. In any case, let your parents deal with contacting the school and getting to the bottom of this. In the meantime, keep all copies of written communication you receive and document things as they happen, i.e., write down a timeline of when the bullying began, when you received texts from the mother and coach, when you noticed you were removed from the mentor program, and give it to your parents. It will help them when they sit down with the school and demonstrate the bullying and harassment. Your parents may need to go above the principal. In the U.S., that's the superintendent. But first step is to get a meeting with the principal and see if they can't resolve it there. Lawyer up. This is ridiculous. Tell your parents to fight this one. You're not in the wrong. Parents need to schedule a conference with the superintendent or principal and bring those screenshots. Cheer coach has no standing at all to put that guilt trip on you. She can just as easily buy one for this girl. The mom is ridiculous based on your post. Seems strange that she would demand a hot item without offering compensation. This has nothing to do with Down syndrome, and they are gaslighting you to think otherwise. If your post is 100% correct, then they are trying to steamroll you, and you need to address this with the administration, and your parents should be there with you. Next up, my wife, 29F, and I, 31M, are in the process of moving into our first real house together. Yesterday, as we were unpacking and organizing our things into different rooms, she came across a painting I've had for years and asked about its background. For context, I've displayed this painting for as long as she's known me. It even hung in our bedroom in our first apartment after we got married. She never seemed to have an issue with it before. The painting was a gift from my college ex-girlfriend, who is an artist. She painted it for me years ago, and it's a beautiful depiction of a park we used to visit often when we were dating. While the painting holds no emotional ties to her anymore, I've kept it because it's aesthetically pleasing and well-made. It's also something I've grown attached to over the years, as it's been with me through multiple moves and reminds me of a nostalgic time in my life. When I explained this to my wife, she became upset and said she didn't want something created by my ex-girlfriend displayed in our home. She mentioned feeling grossed out and said that if she'd known its origin, she wouldn't have allowed it to hang in our bedroom in the first place. I was taken aback because I genuinely didn't think it was an issue. The relationship with my ex ended almost 10 years ago, and to me, it's just a nice piece of art, not a reminder of her. I tried to explain this to my wife, but she wasn't receptive and said she didn't want the painting in our house at all because it made her feel uncomfortable. I started feeling frustrated because, to me, it's just a painting. I felt her reaction was disproportionate to the situation, and in the heat of the moment, I told her she was overreacting, being dramatic, and insecure. I also pointed out that she has the majority say in our home decor, which I'm fine with, but I wanted to be able to display something that's meaningful to me too. She left the room after this, visibly upset, and we haven't really spoken since. So am I in the wrong here? Should I have handled the situation differently? Let's start judging. Everyone sucks. She's blowing this way out of proportion, but you didn't need to hang it in the bedroom. Put it in your office or something, where she won't have to look at it and find something that you both like to hang in the bedroom. No one is in the wrong. I'm just going to take what you say at face value and try not to make my own inferences. I think she's valid to be upset. Some people view keeping an ex's present or belongings as some form of attachment. I would guess it happens a lot in other relationships. Perhaps there's some trauma there that she hasn't shared with you, from some previous experience with an ex in the same scenario. I also believe you when you say you have no attachment to your ex. I have clothes from my ex that she left and never came to get, and my wife wears them and knows they were hers. She doesn't care in the slightest. She actually bought one of the same shirts but in a larger size and slightly different print because she likes it so much. At no point do I ever think about my ex wearing any of the shirts she left, nor do I wish I had my ex instead of my wife. Ex was abusive and a cheater. It just depends on the person. I think you guys need to talk it out like adults. If she truly cannot stand it came from your ex, ditch it. If you can convince your wife to mutually agree to keep it somewhere else, do that. I would bet everything I own. It's not what you said, but the way you said it. At the end of the day, what's more important to you? A painting or your wife's feelings and security? Pretty easy decision, IMO. Good luck, Op. You're both. You're in the wrong, and you're not in the wrong. You're not in the wrong for keeping this art piece. The relationship ended 10 years ago. It has no meaning anymore. It's literally just a painting to you right now. It's kind of weird that she's that bothered by it after so long. What does she think is going to happen? That you're going to one day remember your ex by looking at it and run back to her? But you're in the wrong too. You might not think of your ex anymore when you look at it, but your wife definitely will think of her now every time she sees it. It might feel to you like she's overreacting and dramatic about it, but she feels that way because it's been in your possession for so long, even hung up in your bedroom, and you've never told her its meaning. She feels blindsided. If you want to keep the relationship, you can't keep the painting, at least not in clear sight. If you feel like you're going to resent her for it, it's time to think of a couples therapy. But seriously, the bedroom? Next up, a few weeks ago, my granddad passed away, and his funeral is coming up soon. I had planned to wear my usual funeral attire: black pants, a white shirt, and a gray coat. However, during a phone call with my dad, the topic of what I was planning to wear came up. When I mentioned the gray coat, his reaction was immediate. He said, "Everyone is wearing black, so you're going to stand out and look silly. You need to go out and buy a black coat." I explained to him that I wasn't planning to purchase a new coat, especially so close to the holidays. I also shared that I'm still a week away from getting paid and don't have the extra money to spend on something like that right now. He kept insisting, saying I could find a decent black coat for 40 to 50 pounds, but I reiterated that I couldn't afford it. Eventually, I told him I'd just go without a coat for the day, even though it would likely be cold. He didn't like that response either, and again insisted I should buy one. When I refused, he called me selfish and hung up the phone. We haven't spoken since that conversation. Update: not long after I posted this, my dad unexpectedly showed up at my house. He broke down in tears and apologized for how he'd acted, saying I could wear whatever I wanted to the funeral. We had a cup of tea together and talked about everything. It seems the issue has resolved itself now, and we're in a better place. Let's start judging. First of all, Look your coat over with a critical eye. See if there's ratty edges, if it's starting to show wear or anything. Something you may not have noticed over time. Barring that, then you are not doing anything wrong wearing a gray coat to a funeral. As someone else said, call your dad and ask him if he wants to pay for a new black coat for you. If he says no, he can't. Then you say, well, if you can't, you should understand why I can't. I'm not coming for a fashion show. I'm coming to pay my respects to my grandfather. Edited to add. If you do feel the need to get a new coat, if you do find that yours isn't as good as shape as you thought, try thrift stores. I don't know if you have Goodwill stores where you're at, but they are a decent possibility. It's not absolutely necessary, but if you're going to feel uncomfortable, that's a possible out. You could pick something up there pretty cheap, usually. You're not in the wrong. Was it his dad who passed? Grief may be doing a number on him, so give him some grace. But no, you don't have to wear black. Presumably, this is his dad that died. His nerves are probably really raw right now, and he's probably more than a little sensitive. Funerals are similar to weddings. People want things to be perfect for the burial or memorial service of their loved one. It's a really hard time, and no, you aren't the idiot, but you are not being very compassionate at the moment.